You want to raise indistractable kids, we have to be indistractable ourselves, that we can't be hypocrites. People ask, well, what do I do, right? How do I reach my goals? There's so many things. Do I do football, or do I do cricket, or what am I good at? The problem is they're thinking too far out. I don't want you to think about your 5-year plan. I don't want you to think about your lifetime career. I don't want you to think about what you're going to regret on your deathbed. Start with tomorrow. We don't. That you're absolutely right. I talk to a lot of parents who struggle with these complaints about how their kids are on their devices far too much. And the fact of the matter is that if you want to raise indistractable kids, we have to be indistractable ourselves, that we can't be hypocrites, that we have to model the right behavior. And it's really about intent. It's about showing them, look, I plan my day. So we talked about step one is mastering the internal triggers. Step number two is making time for traction. Show that to your kids, especially if you're working from home right now. I want you to show your kids your schedule. It's an incredibly important thing. Right now, with so many scary things happening in the world, kids need stability. They need routines. They need to know when you're available and when you're not available. So sitting down with them and involving them in making a schedule for their own life, especially if they're learning from home right now, as well as showing them what your calendar looks like, is a great tool. So if you can have a big piece of paper somewhere on a wall where you write down mommy's schedule, daddy's schedule, and the child's schedule, and involve the child. Don't just enforce a schedule on them and say, you're going to study all day long. Involve them and look, how much time do you want for video games? How much time do you want, for FaceTime and Zooming with grandma and grandpa? How much time do you want reading? How much time do you want to spend talking to your friends online? Whatever the case might be, we want to have that structure in our day because constraints make us better. This is a very counterintuitive insight. Many people think, oh, I just want freedom to do whatever I want to do. But you know what that's like. We've all had these days where we look at our calendar and say, oh, I have nothing to do today. I can do whatever I want. I'm going to get so much done. I'm going to be so productive because I have nothing planned. And those are usually our least productive days. Having
That is so
structure
true.
helps
That
us
is so
actually
true.
perform better. This is a very common problem that people ask. Well, what do I do, right? How do I reach my goals? There's so many things. Do I do football, or do I do cricket, or what am I good at? The problem is they're thinking too far out. I don't want you to think about your 5-year plan. I don't want you to think about your lifetime career. I don't want you to think about what you're going to regret on your deathbed. Start with tomorrow. Just start with tomorrow. How would the person you want to become spend their time tomorrow? In these 3 domains, how much time would you spend on yourself, and what would the future you do for yourself? Things you like. You want time for meditation, prayer, drawing, video games? Great. Just for tomorrow. Let's just start with 1 day a week. Okay. Do you spend time exercising? Do you have a bedtime? How many parents preach to their child, you have to get to bed on time. It's very important for your health. But do we keep the bedtime? We're hypocrites, right?
Yeah.
We know how important sleep is. And yet, like I used to do 5 years ago before I started these studies, I would be in bed on checking the internet and not keeping my own bedtime. So it's about planning out those things that are priorities, starting with tomorrow, not these big, long goals. So what is that? Why is that so much more practical? Because if the child wants to try football tomorrow, let's make time for it. Okay? And if the child the next day after that wants to make time for cricket, let's make time for it. We don't have to make these lifelong decisions. We just plan our day by day. And then once we see, oh, okay, this is something I enjoy, great, let's sign up for a league. Let's sign up for a season. Let's make that commitment. Children need to learn these self-regulation skills. It's very, very important. To keep your commitments is going to serve them in every facet of their life. People do not want to work with, they do not want to marry, they do not want to hire flaky people. And the world is full of so many flaky people who don't keep their commitments. And so what we have to do as parents, we are not raising children. Okay? Remember that. We are not raising children. We are raising future adults.
Right.
And so we need to teach them the skill to become indistractable so that they regulate themselves, not with hard rules, right? Not with pushing get off that phone or, stop playing video games. No, we want to involve them, because a lot of parents do this. They're very strict. They want to smash that cell phone or, take these harsh measures, and that never works, because what it does is essentially raise a bunch of cheaters and crooks. Because what you do when you don't involve children in this decision-making process, by squashing their autonomy and agency, you are incentivizing them and teaching them to cheat behind your back. You're teaching them that to get what you want, you do it when mommy and daddy aren't looking. And that's why being harsh with your kids and not involving them in this process backfires. Because when they go to their friend's house or to college or get a job, they'll do whatever they want anyway. So we want to teach them how to self-regulate so that they do what they themselves want to do, which is why sitting down and saying, how do you ideally want to spend your day? We did this with my daughter when she was only 5 years old, and she was on the iPad all the time. So we sat down with her one day and we said, okay, we didn't want to scare her that somehow technology is melting her brain. That's not true. That's a myth. And look, the jobs of the future require children to be tech literate. We want kids to be comfortable with technology. We don't want to scare them. So we sat down with her and we said, look, the cost of using the iPad so much is that it takes time away from all the other stuff you could be doing. Talking to your grandparents, hanging out with your friends, playing outside, engaging in other forms of media like reading a book. It takes time away from that stuff. So we asked her, how much time would you like to spend? What's good for you with the iPad? And so she said at the time, 2 episodes. 2 episodes, meaning 2 Netflix shows, is about 45 minutes. There has not been even one study that shows that 2 hours or less of age-appropriate screen time has any deleterious effects. It's fine. Wow. There's nothing wrong with 2 hours or less of screen time as long as it's age-appropriate content. So we said, fine, but how will you keep this promise to yourself? Okay, because if we see you can't keep this promise to yourself, you're not ready for this technology, you're not ready for this responsibility, and we'll have to talk about it. And she said, okay, I have an idea. She found that we used to have a microwave that was below the countertop. Yeah. And she could walk up to the microwave at just 5 years old and use the timer function to type in 45 minutes. And when the timer went off, she was done. And so now it wasn't mean old daddy who was telling her what to do. She was setting a rule for herself. She was learning self-regulation. Today, she doesn't even need the microwave. She can use Amazon Alexa. She can use Screen Time, these tools that come built right into the devices to monitor her own time. So there is. I don't want people to misunderstand that that structure should be imposed on kids. I think I mentioned it a few times. You have to involve the child in the process because we know that children need these 3 psychological nutrients. In fact, all of us do. Just like we have physiological nutrients, the macronutrients of protein, fat, and carbohydrates, we also have psychological nutrients of autonomy, competency, and relatedness, right? All of us need these things. So all of us need these 3 things. And so when we impose rules on children, this is a big problem today, especially with affluent families that have the money to send their kids to, the sports practice and the swimming practice and the language lessons and the test prep. Kids are so hyper scheduled against their will. That's the problem. There's nothing wrong with any of these scheduled occasions. The problem is when it's done for the parents. right? Because the parent wants to fulfill their football dreams through their children. The parent wants their kid to go to Harvard to fulfill what they didn't accomplish. That's when it's a problem. If the kid wants to do it, by all means. It's when the parent imposes it on the child that it's a problem.